She walked into a boardroom worth $300 million, and walked out with her dignity instead. Laughed at for being a black single mom, she tore up the deal that could have changed everything. What happened next shocked the entire business world, and made her a legend. The grand oak doors of the Manhattan skyscraper's 27th floor boardroom creaked open as a woman stepped inside, heels echoing sharply on the marble floor. Heads turned, conversations paused, and for a moment, it felt like time itself stopped. That woman was Danielle Rivers. Black. Single mother. Founder and CEO of Rivtech Solutions. And at that exact moment, she held in her hands the power to close a $300 million acquisition deal. But before she could say a single word, she felt it, the cold stare of doubt. The unspoken judgment rippling across the room like static electricity. Danielle wasn't dressed to impress, she was dressed to own the room. Midnight blue tailored suit. Crisp white blouse. Hair neatly braided and pinned. No over-the-top jewelry. No need for flash. Her presence alone spoke volumes. But instead of admiration, what she got were raised eyebrows and tight-lipped smirks. There were 12 men in that room. All seasoned executives, investors, and legal reps from the firm hoping to acquire her company. Mostly white. Mostly over 50. And very clearly not used to someone like Danielle sitting at the head of the table. They didn't know that she'd grown Rivtech from nothing, starting with a beat-up second-hand laptop, working late nights while her infant son slept beside her. They didn't know she coded her first cybersecurity prototype from a public library while job hunting. They didn't know she pitched over 90 times before she got her first real investor. To them, she was a novelty. A surprise. A headline waiting to happen. But what really stung wasn't what they said, it was what they didn't say. There was no handshake when she entered. No, congratulations, on the valuation. No, it's an honor to meet the founder. Just silence. And then, whispering. Danielle sat down slowly. She took out her notes. Straightened the folder with the agreement. And when she glanced up, she saw it. Two of the men across the table were chuckling softly. One nudged the other and mouthed, "She's the CEO?" The other one laughed. Danielle's stomach twisted. Not with fear. Not with anger. With recognition. She had been here before, not in a skyscraper boardroom, but in life. Every room she had ever walked into, she had to prove herself twice as much to get half the respect. But today, something inside her snapped into place. She would give them the facts. The numbers. The pitch. But she would also give them a memory they would never forget. Danielle introduced herself in a calm, professional tone. "Good morning, everyone. My name is Danielle Rivers, CEO and founder of Rivtech Solutions." She projected confidence, but inside, she could feel the eyes still questioning her presence. She moved on quickly, showing slides of company growth, detailing Rivtech's patented encryption system, and outlining the massive market share the company had secured in under 3 years. But as the presentation went on, the mood in the room didn't warm up. If anything, it grew colder, more condescending. At slide 6, an executive leaned back with a smirk and said, "So, this is a tech company run entirely by you? That's impressive. I mean, most of our partners are, engineers from Stanford or MIT." Danielle replied with a polite smile, "I'm self-taught. I began coding when my son was a toddler." The smirk grew wider. "So, like between diaper changes and nap time?" Laughter. Not just from him, from multiple men around the table. Danielle paused. She knew sarcasm when she heard it. That wasn't admiration. That was mockery wrapped in fake curiosity. Another man, clearly emboldened, added, "Well, I guess we should be giving out baby bottles at tech conferences." Who knew? He winked. The room chuckled again. Danielle's heart was pounding now, but not from nerves. From pure fire. She had faced disrespect before, racism, sexism, all of it, but rarely this open, this smug, this brazen. One of the more senior-looking men finally spoke up, attempting to sound supportive. "Look, no offense, Danielle, but when we first reviewed the portfolio and saw who founded RivTech, we were honestly surprised. A single mom, with no Ivy League degree, running a cybersecurity firm worth $300 million? It's unheard of." Danielle kept her tone even. "It's unheard of because people like me are rarely given the chance. So we build our own." But they weren't listening. Not really. Their body language told the truth: slouched postures, crossed arms, occasional eye rolls. One man even checked his phone mid-presentation. They weren't here to see Danielle succeed. They were here to claim her work and act like they were doing her a favor. And that's when it hit her. They didn't want her to sit at the table. They wanted her to disappear after the deal. To take the check, sign over her company, and quietly fade away. Danielle took a deep breath. She closed her laptop. "Gentlemen," she said, "before we continue, I want to ask a quick question." The room looked up. What would you say if a white man from MIT pitched you this same company, same product, same valuation, but with less traction than RivTech? There was silence. Danielle leaned forward. Would you joke about his child? Question his legitimacy? Or would you call him a genius? No one spoke. Danielle smiled tightly and leaned back in her chair. That's what I thought. The room went quiet. For the first time since she walked in, they were the ones feeling uncomfortable. And Danielle? She was just getting started. Danielle sat still as the silence in the boardroom settled thick around her. The laughter had died down. Her confrontation moments earlier had stunned the room into quiet disbelief. But behind their suits, smiles, and fake politeness, Danielle knew, this wasn't going to change their mindset. They would continue with their pitch. Try to finalize the deal. Maybe throw in a, "sorry if we offended you." She could feel the pressure building. 12 pairs of eyes on her. The folder in front of her, containing a signed agreement worth $300 million, suddenly felt heavier than lead. Her fingers brushed the edge of the paper, but her mind was somewhere else. In a matter of seconds, she was no longer in that sleek, glass-walled office. She was back in a tiny apartment in the Bronx. A two-room rental, dimly lit, the sound of traffic outside mixing with the soft cry of a newborn. The air was thick with the scent of old furniture and baby powder. Her body ached. She hadn't slept in over 30 hours. A cracked laptop sat on the rickety kitchen table, its screen flickering as she struggled to write her first lines of code between bottle feedings and burping her son. No nanny. No partners. No help. Just survival. There were days she didn't eat just so she could afford diapers. Nights she would cry silently, wondering if she was doing the right thing. She remembered holding her baby in one hand while typing with the other, the blue light from the screen casting shadows on her tired face. Every line of code was written with desperation. Every error message felt like failure. Every tiny success, an alert that finally worked, a program that didn't crash, was a small victory in a war no one saw. She pitched her startup to over 90 investors. Most never responded. Some smiled politely and told her, "You're not what we're looking for." One investor said to her face, "You should focus on your child. Leave tech to the professionals." But she didn't stop. She couldn't. She had a vision. She saw the holes in cybersecurity systems that no one else had patched. She knew how easily companies were exposed, how corporations underestimated threats. She had built an algorithm that could predict and block data breaches in real time, something the industry had been trying to perfect for years. And now? That same algorithm-powered Rivtech Solutions, a leader in next-gen cybersecurity with contracts from financial institutions, government agencies, and health systems. And yet, here she was, a decade later, still being mocked. Still being underestimated. Danielle blinked. She was back in the boardroom now, but something had shifted inside her. Her shoulders straightened. Her grip on the folder loosened. Her mind, once clouded with the excitement of the deal, was now clear as glass. It wasn't just about money anymore. It wasn't about prestige, validation, or finally being able to sit at the table. It was about something far more important, self-respect. What good is a $300 million deal if you have to swallow your dignity to sign it? What's the price tag for being treated like a joke? Danielle stood up slowly. "Gentlemen," she said, her voice calm but steady, "I need 5 minutes." Before they could respond, she turned and walked out of the boardroom, her heels echoing once again. But this time, they weren't just the sound of footsteps. They were the sound of change coming. Danielle didn't rush as she walked through the hallway. She passed assistants, lawyers, interns, all busy, all rushing. But she was the only one who looked like she owned her time. She stopped at a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the skyline. The sun was breaking through the clouds, casting golden rays over the city. She took a deep breath. 10 years of work had led her here. A billion-dollar industry finally taking her seriously. Investors offering to buy Rivtech. Clients on a waiting list to use her patented system. And yet, she still felt like the same woman from the Bronx, fighting for a seat at a table that didn't want her. Except now, she had built her own table. She didn't need their approval anymore. In that moment, Danielle made a decision, not out of anger, but out of clarity. She walked back into the boardroom. The 12 men inside straightened up. Some pretended to be checking their notes. Others cleared their throats awkwardly. They were expecting her to be emotional, maybe difficult. They were ready to calm her down, offer a little praise, and steer her back to the deal. But Danielle didn't sit down. She walked slowly to the head of the table, picked up the folder with the signed contract, and looked directly at Tom, the man who had made the naptime joke. Then, without saying a word, she tore the contract in half, clean, slow, deliberate. Gasps. Eyes widened. One man knocked over his water glass. Another audibly whispered, "She's serious?" Danielle placed the 2 halves of the contract on the table and said, "When I walked into this room, I was prepared to hand over something I built from scratch. Something that took years of sacrifice. But the way you spoke to me, the way you looked at me, it told me everything I needed to know. You don't respect me. You don't believe someone like me deserves to be at this table unless I'm sitting silently, smiling, and selling. Well, let me make this clear, I'm not for sale." Tom scrambled. "Danielle, wait. This doesn't have to end like this. You're taking this too personally." She turned to him. "I built this company while working 2 jobs. I missed birthdays. I coded until my fingers were numb. I fought through racism, sexism, and every no you can imagine. So no, this isn't personal. This is business. And good business means not aligning yourself with people who laugh at you, underestimate you, and dismiss your worth." They tried to recover. One man offered to revise the agreement. Another asked her to just sleep on it. Danielle shook her head. "You already showed me who you are. And I've learned in life, believe people the first time they show you." She gathered her laptop, her notes, and her folder. As she walked toward the door, she paused and delivered one final line. "You didn't just lose a deal today. You lost a company that could have doubled your profits, expanded your reach, and transformed your image. But more importantly, you lost the chance to work with someone who values herself enough to say no." And with that, Danielle Rivers walked out. No anger. No regret. Just power. As the doors closed behind her, the silence in the boardroom was louder than ever. It had been exactly 6 hours since Danielle Rivers walked out of that boardroom and shredded a $300 million deal in front of 12 powerful executives. The news hadn't hit the media yet. But inside certain corporate circles, the story was already spreading like wildfire. Phone calls were being made. Emails flying. Slack channels lit up with one line over and over. She walked away from $300 million. Just tore up the deal. But what people couldn't stop talking about wasn't just the number. It was how she did it. With grace. With confidence. Without raising her voice. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. She didn't rant. She walked away like someone who knew her worth. And that shocked people even more than the deal's collapse. An industry in shock. By the next morning, headlines had begun circulating in tech and business blogs. Newspaper: RivTech CEO cancels $300 million acquisition after disrespect in meeting. Newspaper: Danielle Rivers takes a stand against executive elitism. Newspaper: single mother turned tech mogul refuses to sell her soul, or her company. And that's when things really got interesting. Within 24 hours, Danielle's inbox exploded. Not with criticism, but with support. Hundreds of emails flooded her company, from aspiring female founders, underrepresented tech leaders, young black entrepreneurs, even single dads. People were thanking her. Calling her bold. Calling her a symbol. You spoke for all of us who've been in rooms where we didn't feel seen. You reminded me I don't have to tolerate disrespect to succeed. I watched the clip of you walking out 5 times. That's power. Even a few CEOs of Fortune 500 companies reached out, not just to applaud her, but to schedule meetings. But these meetings weren't about buying her company. They were about partnerships. Strategic alliances. Tech collaborations. Enterprise contracts. Danielle hadn't burned a bridge. She'd built a new road, one that didn't require approval from the same gatekeepers who laughed at her. The boardroom's fallout. Meanwhile, back at the corporate firm she walked away from, the fallout was brutal. The execs in that boardroom had underestimated her. And now it was costing them. Their legal department had spent months drafting that acquisition agreement. Their PR team had already prepared the press release. Their shareholders were expecting growth projections based on RivTech's tech integration. But now? It was all gone. Worse still, internal leaks were spreading the story of what really happened in that boardroom. Word got out that Danielle was mocked. Disrespected. Dismissed. The firm was accused of bias, toxic culture, and elitism. One of the executives was asked to resign. 2 others issued public apologies, ones Danielle didn't respond to. But the damage had been done. Their reputation took a serious hit, especially in the eyes of younger entrepreneurs and progressive investors. It turned out, mocking a single black mom who built a multi-million-dollar company from scratch? Not a good business move. A new chapter for RivTech. While the world was still digesting the story, Danielle was already making moves. She held a virtual town hall with her entire company, engineers, marketers, designers, interns. She told them the truth. I walked away from the deal not because the money wasn't enough, but because our dignity is priceless. We are not here to be absorbed. We are here to lead. And just like that, Danielle shifted her company's trajectory overnight. Instead of being acquired, RivTech launched a new internal division, focused on training young coders from underprivileged communities. They partnered with historically black colleges, women in tech programs, and boot camps for single parents. Not as a charity, but as a pipeline to future talent. Danielle also announced a new B2B platform for small businesses, offering enterprise-level cybersecurity at affordable rates. It was a direct move to decentralize power in the tech world, and people noticed. Within 6 months, Rivtecha's valuation increased by 40%. Danielle was invited to keynote at South by Southwest and TechCrunch Disrupt. Time magazine listed her as one of the top 100 most influential people in tech. And for the first time, Danielle wasn't being invited just to speak on diversity in tech. She was being invited to speak on innovation, growth, leadership. Because finally, the world stopped seeing her as a novelty, and started seeing her as a force. A message that echoed beyond business. But perhaps the most powerful ripple effect came from people far outside the tech world. Teachers showed videos of her story to their students. Career coaches quoted her in workshops. Mothers messaged her, "I showed my daughter what you did." She said, "I want to be like her." Danielle wasn't just a tech founder anymore. She had become a symbol of boundaries, strength, self-respect. And it all stemmed from one defining moment: saying no to disrespect. She taught people that success isn't about how much you earn, it's about what you're willing to walk away from. That sometimes, the most powerful word in business isn't yes. It's no. The man who came back. 3 months after the deal was cancelled, Danielle received a message. It was from Tom, the executive who had made the nap time joke in the boardroom. He asked for a short meeting. Said he had something to say. Danielle, curious, agreed to a 15-minute Zoom call. He logged on, looking tired. Humbled. "Danielle," he began, "I just wanted to say, you were right. I didn't see you. I didn't respect you. And I didn't realize the damage I caused." He paused. "I've been in this industry for 30 years, and I've never seen someone handle a room the way you did. You didn't just walk out, you taught me a lesson I'll carry for the rest of my career." Danielle listened quietly. Then replied, "I didn't walk out to teach you a lesson, Tom. I walked out because I don't compromise on respect anymore. But I'm glad you're learning. Because people like me, we're not going anywhere. And the next time someone like me walks into your boardroom, remember this." She ended the call with a smile and closed her laptop. It was never about revenge. It was always about evolution. Epilogue: The woman who changed the game. Today, Danielle Rivers' story is taught in business schools. Not just as a lesson in entrepreneurship, but as a blueprint for self-worth. She proved you don't need to wear a mask to be accepted. You don't need to shrink to be safe. You don't need to sell out to succeed. You just need to know who you are. And stand by it, even if the whole room laughs. Because sometimes, the most powerful move is walking away from the table and building your own. If this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button. More powerful stories are coming your way. Don't just watch success, be part of it. Join the journey today.